You lost a 100-point player.
This is Tall Can Audio.
Off we go, a Thursday edition of the Tall Can Audio podcast. Matt Robinson with you, as always, in the TCA studio. I normally call it beautiful Bytown, Canada. It's a mess, at least in my corner of the world. And frankly, we put our guest today through hell just to get here. And that's on top of the hell he was already going through. Matty K, Matt Connis-Vita back in the TCA studio. What's happening, man?
Just some stuff.
Just some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got an old car. We've been talking about getting a new car. And it's like, let's try not to put any money into the old car because we're getting a new car. And I can't remember how long ago, but had to pull the trigger on replacing a bearing. And when I did that, replaced a couple of rims. So that was not fun. The brakes went before that. But after the rims and the bearings, it was like, that's it. Mm-hmm. No more substantial money into this car. We're going to get a new car. And so on the weekend, running some errands, going to pull into this place to get ourselves some poutine. And tire sounds a little strange as we're turning into the parking lot. And so I park the car and get out.
Oh dear.
Yeah, the passenger side front tire in the process of flattening. It had popped. So put the spare on, go up to Canadian Tire. Their garage closed 10 minutes ago.
Of course it did.
So I'm like, okay, I'll go to Mr. Lube Plus Tires. Sure. Good, friendly sponsor on our afternoon show of the traffic that I tend to deliver Monday and Friday.
The Drive, TSN 1200.
And they're closed as well.
Okay.
So I go back up to Canadian Tire in my parents' old van. And I'm like, I would like to buy a new tire, mount on the old rims. And he's like, you should really buy 4. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be
new money in the old car.
I don't know if I'm going to be driving this car for another 3 weeks. Right. Like, honestly, we are right into it. And he's like, okay, I'll find you the cheapest tire we have. I can't do a work order, but I'll set you up and hopefully they'll get it done early tomorrow. So the guy at CT was phenomenal.
Sure.
Took care of me. Mm-hmm. They put a really cheap tire put a new tire on my rim. Went, picked it up, set it up the next day. Perfect. Drive out, had worked the REDBLACKS game on Sunday.
Right.
And had Monday, Tuesday off. So went out to visit.
So have multiple reasons to feel sympathy for Matty K right now.
I'm not looking for sympathy.
But having to watch that REDBLACKS game.
Not great, Bob.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. There's plenty of time. But go out to Arn Pryor, visit with the in-laws. Yep. Terrific time. Come back on Tuesday. Stop off at my sister's to meet my brand new niece, Nora, who I believe was 9 days old at the time.
Wow.
Terrific. Mm-hmm. Have great cuddle sesh with her.
Of course.
See my other 2 nieces, her older sisters, Mila, Kaya. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Go to get in the car. My driver's side front tire is flat. And of course, when I go and get the jack, it just starts pouring.
Sure it did.
So I get the flat tire off, put the spare back on, and as soon as we get back in the car, it stops raining.
Yeah.
So I'm soaked.
Yeah.
And take the long way home. So that was on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
That's how you spent your Canada Day.
That's how I spent my Canada Day. Wednesday, went to a dealership. I went before work. My wife went after work. All the paperwork's done. Pick up the new car on Saturday.
There you go. And this is all in a week where you should just be packing your underwear for a trip to Europe, which we will also get to in this one. Because, as you know, I'm sort of like third-hand fanboying over what you've got coming up here in the next little while. You're off to Europe on Monday.
Leave Monday evening.
This was not the week you needed leading up to trying to go for a multi-week European vacation.
Hey, we're about to go on vacation. Let's have the old car start to fall apart and thus very desperately buy a new car. I mean, it's like the old.
Why wouldn't I want to do that the week before my vacation?
It's like the late great Bob Cole. Everything is happening. Everything is happening.
And so what I can deduce from all of this that you've just said is that this is a man who needs a pint.
I would not say no to a pint, my friend.
Well, let's have a pint. And I wouldn't say I twisted your arm out there, but I did suggest if you like a dark IPA, I got something for you. And you didn't push back much on it. And I think you grabbed the Entangled dark IPA from Lake of Bays.
Lake of Bays Brewing Company, Entangled Dark IPA. And like you said, there was not a lot of arm twisting required. It's like, do you like dark IPAs? Sold.
Right.
Well, no, I'm already sold.
Right.
You don't
Stop
screw this
talking,
up.
Matt.
Sold.
Yes.
So I can't wait to crack this baby open.
That is a beaut. You met our friend Angela.
I did.
At our little 10th anniversary shindig over at the Nita Beer Company, where we introduced another dark IPA.
Terrific.
That one with the volume turned up on it a little bit. So not ideal for the time of day that you and I are recording right now. But yeah, Angela was kind enough to show up, and as were you. And, you know, we've sort of joked on here a time or two in the early moments or the early minutes or whatever you'd call it of that party. There was it looked a little like a grade 9 dance. Like there was a TSN 1200 staff meeting happening over at this table, and then everyone else over at another table. Now it eventually became more intermingled. This is right. Yeah, there was kind of like I'm jumping up and going between gatherings and coming back and forth. But it was fun, man. I was glad you and Chelsea were able to make it. Got to meet, a woman who must have just infinite patience to spend her time with you.
Close to infinite. About to embark on a 2-week journey through 3.5 countries.
3.5?
Well, how many countries are in this country?
In this country? How many countries are in this country?
That's the old Ted Lasso.
Yes, exactly.
How many countries are in this country? Because we're doing England and Scotland.
Right. So
is that 2 countries or is it?
It's a fair question.
See, I gotcha.
Okay, you're right. You have brought me around. But it was a pleasure to meet her and to have you at the party as well as everybody else, right? Like, we had a good time there trying that out. So this is the Entangled Lake of Bays, dialed down a little so we can all carry on with our day afterwards. Meanwhile, over here, I'm going to have something from Pistols Brewing Company, which nice. I'm not sure if you've noticed, or I'm sure you have as a craft beer connoisseur. Evergreen, sort of, I don't know if it's completely new management, new ownership, but this is the former Evergreen. This is their Ramblers Amber. I did it. I got my tongue around the Ramblers Amber and went back twice. I got it.
Oh, nailed it.
5% and amber on this one that I'm looking forward to trying. So that's what we'll be riding with here today.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers. Yeah, when poor Matty K, after all of that, after the car troubles,
oh man,
after dealing with insurance,
yeah,
he gets here to the road just outside my place, and they have decided now
one-way traffic
start
only,
digging it up. Yeah,
driving over a pile of dirt that they've put in so that it's not like a.
They were here and they were loud for a couple of weeks, but it turned out they were only replacing the sidewalks at the time, and they'd been largely gone. And you're like, all right, like I guess that's fine. I guess I knew they weren't done. At some point, they were going to come back and redo the surface of the street. Turns out that's right now.
You know
Matty
what?
K was trying to get here.
Like I told my wife the other day, if this is the worst thing that I have to deal with this year, pretty good year.
Good year.
Pretty good year.
As he deals with his tires.
They're just tires.
And now new car.
It's just a car. Now I got a hybrid, so I'm going to be spending almost no money in gas going to and from work. It's going to be beautiful.
All right. Look. I do want to talk to you about the Red Blacks.
Okay.
I do want to talk to you about the NHL free agency. But as I alluded to a few minutes ago, I am most interested in where you are off to cover a country and a half, 3.5 countries.
Okay. 3.5 countries in 2 weeks.
You're leaving Monday night. Look, you were on I think we did a show from Lakeside at my cottage last summer when you were one of the lucky few who had gotten through and gotten tickets to Oasis. And this wasn't like the later release when Oasis was going to be part of like debuting this new venue north of Toronto that may or may not be finished in time. I don't But you got
I don't
through.
have to worry about that.
No, you are going over to Europe. You're going over to England to see Oasis. You were one of the guys who got through at the time, and I think the comparison we were making at the time was like Taylor Swift for 40-year-old men was sort of the you are headed out. I was under the impression, incorrectly, that they would start the tour in their hometown. That is not what's happening.
Nope.
I think it actually starts tomorrow night, does it not? On Friday in Wales?
That sounds right to me. I know they have two. I'm looking at them as warm-up shows.
Yes.
Because the main event will be their first show back in their hometown of Manchester.
Right.
Which is a week from tomorrow.
Okay.
And we will be there.
So, yeah, that is a week from Friday at the... podcasting is fairly time ambiguous.
Of course. A week from Friday.
Yeah. So you are headed over there on Monday night to Manchester. Is that correct?
So Monday we fly into London.
Yeah.
We get into London at, I think, about 6 a.m. local time. We've got that beautiful direct flight, Ottawa to London, which when we went to Europe last year
That's not a thing.
was not the case. We had to fly through Toronto.
Okay.
So we'll get to London at about 6 a.m. We figured it out last year. It's one train from the airport, then about a 15-minute walk to my brother and his wife's flat in Angel, which is... So it is Arsenal Gunners territory, and my brother is a huge Spurs fan. My brother actually went to Bilbao. He had a ridiculous, like, AJ Jakubekian journey to get to Bilbao to see his beloved Spurs in the championship, and he got to see them win a trophy. And I think he was gone for about 33 hours and missed a day and a half of work. And drove overnight with internet friends to Bordeaux, then internet trained friends to Paris.
This is a very post-2000 world we're living in.
100%. But so we'll go to their flat, get a nice nap in, and then I can't remember exactly what our itinerary is, but I think we're in London for 2 nights.
Okay.
Then we take the train up to Manchester.
You have family there, and she has friends in Manchester, right? Your wife has...
So she studied at the University of Sussex in Brighton and then taught at the University of Manchester.
Okay.
So her best friend in the world lives in Manchester. She has another friend we met last year who lives in Newport, Wales. And so last year we went to visit him. He took us to a castle and hosted us at his beautiful Welsh house. And so he's coming into London. We're seeing a play in London with him before we go up to Manchester.
Okay. Is this a play we'd recognize the name of? Like, is it something famous or?
So it's starring Martin Freeman.
Okay.
So really excited to see him.
But...
Last year we went and saw a play that had Patricia Clarkson and Brian Cox, and we were all excited to. It was terrible.
Okay.
My brother and his wife walked out at the intermission, and Chelsea and I stayed, and we're like, you know what?
The Brits are
next
ruthless,
break,
man.
we're leaving. And there was no break. It just went on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible. But this one, the reviews are great and really excited to see that. Then we go up to Manchester, gonna meet up with Chelsea's best friend. And then my brother and his wife are coming to Oasis with us. Then they're staying in the Peak District, which I've heard terrific things about. I have never been, but it's one of my wife's favorite places in the world.
Okay.
So we're going to do a hike in the Peak District, which should be phenomenal. Then we take the train up to Edinburgh.
Okay.
And I think we're in Edinburgh for 3 nights. We've got like a whiskey tasting booked.
Most nights.
Yeah,
I think when you're in Scotland, there's always a whiskey tasting.
Going to be a lot of scotch, and I cannot wait. I think the plan, we're going to climb Arthur's Seat, and then
I don't even know what that means.
It's like the big hill in the center of Edinburgh, and apparently it's
climb a hill.
Yeah, apparently it's beautiful.
Okay,
and hopefully it's not too foggy the day we go up, so we get a gorgeous view of the city.
I promise, watching me drink whiskey and then climb a hill, you'd wish it was foggy.
I think separate days is the plan.
Okay.
I don't think we're doing Arthur's Seat the day of the Scotch, like the main Scotch tasting.
Sure.
And then one of the, I mean, obviously we're seeing Oasis in Manchester before we go up to Scotland. That is going to be a highlight. But maybe the most special thing for me is we're going to Helsinki. And we're going to spend 2 nights in Finland, which is...
Trying to find the Konesvita clan?
I don't think we're going to be traveling up to... It's a bit too quick this time. So I don't think we're going to travel up to where my mummu and papa grew up.
Sure.
But...
For people who aren't familiar...
Grandmother, grandfather.
And Konesvita is a Finnish name.
Very Finnish name. It means beautiful meadows.
Does it really?
Yeah. Kaunis means beautiful. Vita, meadow.
Look at this
So
guy.
there you go. I've been doing my Duolingo.
Yeah.
It was funny, and we'll get to the Red Blacks game in a minute here, but I ended up meeting a guy in our broadcast location who was in town, I think, for floorball championships, and he's from Helsinki. And so he was saying, like, we can connect. I don't think I'll be in the city. I'll be at the lake when you're there, but if you want recommendations, restaurants, 100%. I mean, cottage life is so key for Finns, and it was always something that was super important for my grandparents with my family. So we've got the family.
I read
cottage.
Matt Sundin's book not too long ago, and he's
Hey,
like,
he's Swede.
I know, but we would like have this Battle of Ontario, and then me and Alfie would be at the lake that summer, right? Like,
Oh, of course.
you get home to your own country, and it's off to cottage country, whatever that looks like in your country, right?
So I was thanking this man in Finnish for the help he's going to provide. Kiitos oikein paljon, which is thank you very much.
Sure,
and he was like,
that, yeah.
when you're in Helsinki, don't use this language. And I was like, how about paskahosa, which was a card game we used to play with my mummu up at the cottage, and it means shitty pants. And he was like, yes, that's much better. And then there's a bit of a stronger swear word, perkele.
Okay.
And he was like, yes, that's perfect. Talk like that when you're in Helsinki. So I'm prepared.
Yes.
I'm ready.
To talk like a local.
Oh, I've been working on it, and not an easy language.
So
not an easy language.
how long are you going to be over there?
Just 2 nights in Helsinki.
No, sorry, the whole...
Oh, 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then we go to Copenhagen.
Copenhagen.
A couple nights in Copenhagen, then back to London and back home.
Okay.
But so it's going to be a bit of a whirlwind.
Sounds like it.
But we're looking at restaurants. We don't have anyone that we know in Copenhagen. Some distant family that aren't in Helsinki proper, so I don't think we're going to see them this time around.
Right.
But it's going to be a whirlwind, the two of us, and can't wait. I'm so excited. One of the highlights is definitely going to be we're booked in at a sauna that's right on the Baltic Sea. And so we have our private sauna and then can swim in the Baltic. And my brother, he went to Helsinki, I think for his birthday a year ago.
Like, you can hear it, good listener. It's not a sauna. It's a sauna.
I'm getting ready. I don't know if you've heard the Eurovision entrant from Sweden, which was actually a band.
You do know that I have not heard that.
Well, it's possible. It was everywhere, kind of.
I guess.
At least in my circles.
I'm not hip with anything that's happening
Eurovision
in the
hip?
real world. If this was Eurovision like 2004, maybe we got a shot at it. But still probably no.
So Sweden's entry to Eurovision was called Barabarabastu. Sure. And Swedish is the only language in the entire world where they have a different word for sauna, where they don't use the Finnish words because Swedes are assholes.
Spoken as a true Finn.
Yeah, I mean, I got to rep my people. But it's funny because the entrants from Sweden are actually Finnish guys. It's a group of 3 Finnish men who were born and raised in a Swedish-speaking part of Finland. And they entered Eurovision with their song Barabarabastu as a way to hopefully book themselves more gigs. And it was way more successful than they ever anticipated.
No way.
I think they finished 4th or 5th. They were in the top 5. And the entire song is about having a sauna. And there's a bit of, they like leading into the chorus, they count 1, 2, 3 sauna in Finnish.
Okay.
Which is yksi, kaksi, kolme, sauna. And it's a
Du hast.
it's a terrific, that's German.
I know.
It's a terrific earworm song, and it's going to be in my head for probably the next 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't it be? I'm sure you're familiar with the movie Euro Trip, which shows a very legitimately honest portrayal of all of Europe. I know this is a... But I'm curious, man.
I've got a terrific Euro Trip story, not to jump in and talk over you here, but so... I have friends.
People have heard from me. Like, no one needs to hear more of Matt.
I don't think anyone needs to hear this Matt and his inane vacation stories. But I have friends who grew up, born and raised in the north of Italy. They were here on work visas in, I think, 2012 and lived with me for about 6 months. Okay. Their visas expired. They had to move back. And they were like, Matt, come visit us and we'll show you around Italy. And I was like, I hope you are serious because I will 100% do that.
We'll be doing that.
And I did.
Yeah.
I went the very next summer, and they took me to Rome. We went to Venice. We went to Florence, another couple of smaller towns. We went to their summer home right on the Adriatic Sea. In
summer home.
Yeah.
Just a different word for a cottage on the lake.
That was, I believe, in Lignano.
Okay.
And so after that trip, it was such a great time. The next year, they were like, if you can come back to Europe, we'll do a Euro trip together. So I was like, yeah, I'm in. So we did Berlin, Amsterdam, Brussels, Barcelona.
Okay.
But I flew into Venice and took transit up to their small town, about an hour north of Venice. And the first night there, we were flying off to Germany the next day. So we watched Euro Trip, but in Italian.
Oh.
They had a bunch of friends come over, and we watched the Italian version of Euro Trip. And my favorite thing about the Italian version of Euro Trip, and if you're not familiar with the film, there's a scene where they're riding a train, and there is a very, very creepy Italian man, played by Fred Armisen, who sexually assaults them.
Pretty much.
Basically in tunnels. Sexually assaults them. And they go through a small tunnel and they come out and he'd be massaging the guy and, oh, mi scusi. In the Italian version of the film, Spanish.
Okay. He's not.
He's not Italian in the Italian version. It's a lot of lo siento.
Little self-preservation.
And I thought that was, that is just something that stuck with me.
I kind of love that, like, and it makes me wonder, like, across Europe, if it's sort of handing off the creep to like other nations.
Never the Italian. It's that's the Spaniard.
Or like even in that rivalry between Sweden and Finland, like it's neither of us, but I'm gonna make that guy Finnish. I'm gonna make that guy Swedish. The other way around.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I'm curious, man, on the Oasis part of it. Are you? I don't know what percentage you'd want to put on it, but like, are you at all surprised we are a year removed from the announcement? It's all started. Are you surprised we've gotten this far without it blowing up? Because I do remember a year ago, 2 years ago, when they announced the Blink 182 reunion tour, and Toronto was announced as being on like the back quarter of, like, oh, I don't know if they're going to make it, right? Like, these guys have gotten together, broken up so many times. Oasis, a tad explosive, a tad combustible.
Might even say they're famous for it.
Are you surprised we have gotten this far, or did you always think they're going to get to the starting line? It's just a question from there of how far they'll get.
100% the latter.
Yeah.
100%. Now, like you said,
there's some money to be made here. I guess it's been made.
The tour starts this Friday.
Yeah.
In Wales. Yeah. I think they have 2 shows in Wales. They originally had 3 in Manchester. They added another 2. So they got 5 in Manchester.
Okay.
And
which is the hometown.
That is their hometown.
Yeah.
I do believe that the 2 I don't know. I haven't been following super close. I haven't been following it all, to be honest with you. I don't know how much they've been rehearsing together.
Right.
Anything like that. My assumption was always they'll try to minimize the amount of time they spend together till the shows start.
Sure.
And I think that's why they're starting in Wales as opposed to their hometown, because they want a couple of shows to sort of find their
You
rhythm.
said it was 2 in Wales?
I believe it is 2.
2 in Wales.
When they first announced the tour, it was 2 in Wales for
Okay.
sure. 3 in Manchester. I think 3 in London.
Before you come home.
100%.
Yeah, okay.
And so I'm not surprised at all that there haven't been any blow-ups yet. I did joke that by the back half of the Manchester dates, I wouldn't be surprised if trouble's brewing. And
It's already on fire.
I handicapped it that they would not get through the London dates at Wembley. Was my initial thought. Now
They're
they've
not
added,
even getting out of the UK.
well, and they've since added so many more
This
shows.
is it. Like, they are coming to North America. They're going to South America. I think I saw, is there not an Australian
I
date
believe there
or two?
is.
Yeah. So they're putting an awful lot on, it's going to be fine. We'll get along.
We'll
It's
see.
never been an issue before.
We'll see. I mean, there's so much money to be made.
Yeah.
And it's such a weird dynamic because they're not gouging people as much as they could,
Right.
but they're also not
No.
Robert Smith of The Cure,
Right.
where we saw The Cure in Montreal a couple summers ago, and Robert Smith found out about the Ticketmaster surcharge,
Right.
and he got so pissed and because it said it was like an artist surcharge,
Right.
and he's like, I don't want this.
Yeah.
Well, it's just nope. Refund everyone.
Right.
And so my wife got a refund on our 2 tickets because we bought them as soon as they went on sale.
Yeah.
And those, for the show we saw, those were not 2023, 2024, whatever year it was, prices.
Right.
It was a throwback.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And the Oasis tickets are not like that. They're not, discount, super cheap,
Sure.
taking care of their customers'
But they're
tickets.
not Taylor Swift
100%.
extravagant.
Exactly.
Right.
And they've really cracked down on scalping.
I've noticed that. Hey, like, they're in the news almost every week on some sort of resale website going, no, like, if you show up with that, you're not even going to get in. Like,
Yep.
do not resell here because it's not going to work. Like,
I think you can resell
I think that's admirable.
at cost,
Yes.
but
Yeah, that's right.
inflating the prices, they're canceling and returning tickets.
Well, I know you and I are both hip guys, and I there was a couple different times where the hip would run big shows, and they would do it on a secondary website. One was called like Maple Music or something like that, and you're like, this is a nightmare. Like, when they would announce a tour, that website was not capable of handling tragically hip traffic, and yet they were doing it to avoid Ticketmaster's bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
their heart was in the right place, but it just created an entirely different. Like, Ticketmaster is the king; they can handle that traffic. They
Couldn't handle the Oasis traffic because I got a blue screen of death, and it was very thankful that Chelsea was also awake at 3:30 in the morning,
Of course.
and did not get the blue screen of
Right.
death. But
Yeah, I've had different experiences like that where I've had, especially on that final tour, I had both my parents, who could not possibly care less about the tragically, online, like at home, we're all on speakerphone, like, refresh, right? Like, trying to, and finally, it wasn't even me, it was my buddy who got through. And now all of a sudden we're all focused on him, like, yeah, like, whatever, we're all done here. Like, make sure you get 4, right? Like, which was the max, I think. But it's like that a little bit, right? With Oasis, they've done their part to not allow this to explode in the way that, a Taylor Swift or a other acts.
Eagles,
yeah,
who I think were the first act ever to charge more than $100 for a concert ticket.
Right.
So the prices you're paying today, you can thank Don Henley and Glenn Fry.
Okay.
Well, you can't thank Glenn Fry. He's dead.
Yeah. It would be tough to thank him.
Yeah.
But in spirit, appreciate you, Matt. What is your expectation? There are, I think you said now they've added 2, so there's 5 shows in Manchester.
That's right.
What number are you?
Number 1.
Number 1.
We are
the
show
first
number 1.
hometown show of the return. Expectations, things you hope to, like, there are certain things you're obviously going to hear in a Oasis reunion tour, but you are a fan. Is there a song that maybe is a little off the radar you're hoping to hear, or a type of performance you're looking for? Like, just, I don't know, man. Like, I'm kind of nerding out on that, and I'm not even that big of an Oasis guy, but it's just one of those bands that reunites from our generation that's like, oh, that's awesome.
So a couple of, I historically have not been a massive Oasis fan. I
Sell your ticket, you stooge.
I'm really excited to go. I've become a bigger fan listening to a lot of their stuff in anticipation of the show.
Yes.
And I know What's the Story, Morning Glory pretty well.
Yeah.
I've No, Definitely Maybe. Really, I think that's my favorite of their albums.
Right.
And I can't even remember the name of their third album, but I was listening to it a couple of days ago, and man, there are some terrific songs on that. So I think my two hopes for the show, first and foremost, I don't want piss thrown on me during cigarettes and alcohol. Because I've learned that, and this is not something that I knew.
Needed that last phrase. I just never want piss thrown on me.
But this is something that I was not aware of. Because I was not a massive Oasis fan, but their diehard fans don't want to lose their spot, so they'll piss into empty beer bottles that they've been drinking. It's very soccer hooligan behavior.
Yeah.
And then when Oasis plays cigarettes and alcohol, they throw the piss bottles everywhere. And so you know what, then? Open your show with that song. Like, before anybody's built up a full bladder. Maybe the Gallaghers will do that mercifully. The other song, I know I'm allowed to swear on this podcast. Yeah. I don't feel comfortable. Okay. Just with a live microphone.
Yeah, because you're about to head off to another place where you are not.
And it's something I've been in broadcasting for 19
Our friend Shrides
now.
has said in here a couple times, I just can't allow myself to normalize, hey, there's a mic in front of me and I can say this word.
It's just something I
can't always
do.
say it.
But Oasis has a song that's on the soundtrack for the film Snatch.
Yeah.
And it's during arguably the climactic
that wasn't
scene.
The swear, by the way.
It was not. No. No, it's the name of a film.
Yes.
It is the name of a
proper
film. Brad
title.
Pitt.
Yes.
Jason Statham.
Yeah.
Guy Ritchie, I believe it's his second film after Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Great movie.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt plays a pikey boxer.
Okay.
And during the climactic fight scene, there's an Oasis song playing in the background. It's mostly instrumental and spoken word, but it's called Effing in the Bushes.
Okay.
And there's like...
What does that stand for?
You can say it.
Okay. I sure can.
There's
freaking cool.
Yeah, there's like an old lady spoken word in the background, like kids are running around naked, effing in the bushes, except she doesn't say effing. No. And I would be blown away. It would be so awesome if they played that song. I have no expectations. I'm not looking at set lists.
Right. You don't do that,
I don't do that.
Okay.
My wife does.
I do too.
It's going to be a battle.
Yeah.
Don't
tell me.
Yeah, I don't want to know. I don't want to. And I mentioned that show that The Cure did in Montreal a couple years ago. Everyone around us, the entire show, was looking at previous set lists so they'd know what songs were coming up.
I don't
entire
do it,
show.
And I guess it doesn't matter, but I've never done it during a show, but going like beforehand, like, give me a sense of what we're playing here, what we're doing here. And the encore will change, but there's always a bit of a baseline of, I kind of like to know.
I like to be surprised.
I want to study up. Because I want to sing along. I'm a very talented vocalist. You see. I'm just really happy to drink some rum and yell.
I love to go over set lists and relive the show after the fact.
Okay.
I like going in blind.
Okay.
So I have no expectations.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. I want to be surprised.
Yeah. I get that. I disagree, but I get it. Like that's a legitimate approach to a new show. So look, you and I have talked about this. We're going to get you back in after you've done this.
Hopefully not smelling of piss that's been thrown on me during cigarettes and alcohol.
We're going to ask you to shower before you come in. And we're going to ask you to come back and talk about the tour you've done of such and such number of countries and a half. And we'll see how that math has worked out. But honestly, man, a little envious. And I've sort of talked about it on the show before. I wasn't going to do any of the legwork for like the Rogers Stadium north of Toronto. But if it had fallen in my lap, like someone said, and I'd still pay. Like if someone had said, "Hey, we've got 4 tickets, so and so can't make it.
Are you in?
It's $350 or it's $4, whatever." Yeah, I'm probably in.
Yeah.
Was I going to sit on? No. Like I'm not that big of a fan. But I do think this is a sweet. And the fact that you're going over and doing it in their hometown, which is number one show in the hometown, right? Like, you know they're going to make it that far. Like, mom and dad are going to be pissed if we don't finish this. At least get that far. So I am a little envious in that regard. Rob and I were debating this a couple of weeks ago because I think Coldplay has a big tour coming up. Like, even if that one dropped into my lap for free, I'm not going. Like, I have no interest. This one, if it dropped into my lap with a price tag, I would go. I just wasn't prepared to do the legwork on it, right? And at that time, it was going to be held in a stadium I wasn't sure would be built in time in north of Toronto. But there's something about Oasis in Manchester, the first one, that has me, got to be honest, man, a little envious.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty special. Yeah. And I think there are going to be about 80,000 people in Heaton Park for the show.
Right.
And it feels like there are going to be 800,000 people who said they were there.
Yes.
And
it's always one of those, right?
Anytime you've got one of those events,
yes.
Even if you are on Oasis,
right.
It feels like that. It feels like this is going to be a big moment show,
right?
And I feel very lucky, very privileged that we were able to make it happen. And it's going to be pretty I'm not going to lie. It is going to be, even if they sound terrible and they're awful. I feel like this is going to go
see them be awful
on my top 10 list of shows, guaranteed, even if they sound horrible, because it's such a moment. It would be like being at that last Tragically Hip show.
Yes.
And that was one that I was in Antigonish, Nova Scotia, visiting with my brother, and we got together at his friend Dev's house, and we all watched the live stream of the show.
Right.
And it was one of those things that the concert sort of transcends just being a concert.
Sure.
And I don't know that that's what's going to happen, but it feels like their first show back in Manchester after all of these years is going to be that kind of event.
A spectacle.
Pretty spectacular that we'll get to be there.
And even if they don't finish show 2 in Manchester, you will have your ears done.
We were saying, my wife's kind of hoping that one takes a swing at the other with the guitar. I can't remember who calls whom a potato, but I know one of the brothers strictly would refer to the other one as a potato. He's like, that potato's playing our songs again. And so I want to, if I was not worried about getting thrown out, I'd love to throw a potato on stage. I thought that'd be hilarious. I won't be doing it.
No.
I won't encourage I would never encourage
anyone.
Potatoes
don't get thrown until they get to Ireland. Where I guess they're in short supply. Maybe you wouldn't throw it away there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a famine.
And maybe we should turn our BDI to the CFL.
Let's do it.
The Red Blacks, man, you are doing the post game quite a bit. Obviously, well, not quite a bit, all the time.
Well, missing 2.
Well, yes.
Unfortunately, Oasis coincides with a home and home against the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
And the ruthless JR has allowed you to slip out.
So I do believe Steve Lloyd and Graham Creech will be handling the 2 games respectively.
Teammates, right?
Terrific teammates.
Yes.
And I am very thankful to the 2 of them.
So they're not good again. And I you can push back if you want, but we've had like I understand when your starting quarterback is hurt, your team isn't at full capacity. But last year was such I'm going to call it a tease, right? Like the first half being what it was, and then the second half being what it was, which was not good. And then, you lose in the playoffs, again, where the game itself in the East semi was almost like a microcosm of the season.
There wasn't nearly as much good in the playoff game
you're
as
right.
there was
I am
in the
not
regular
revealing
season.
any tremendous insights here, clearly, but there were some people at that time saying it's time for a little more significant change than what we've seen over the last couple, and they decided to bring it back again. There were some legitimate reasons for that. I wasn't one of those people hollering that Bob Dice, as the head coach, has to go. But now that we are a few weeks into the season, there are some things that look oddly familiar, right? That look, that seems to have carried forward a little bit. Am I being unfair to the Red Blacks right now? Or, the starting quarterback has been hurt and it's no more complicated than that. Give them some time.
I think it is a little bit more complicated than that because the starting quarterback being hurt, obviously huge issue.
Yeah.
Something that I've certainly touched on our countdown to kickoff and the post-game show with Duke, James Duke Ellingson, is the injuries.
Which have been great shows, by the way. If
Thank
people
you.
aren't missing it, like, check in on the... Like, I know a lot of people like to and prefer to watch the games on TV, but, like, while you're making dinner beforehand or, you know, driving home afterwards, whatever, the pre- and post-games have been terrific on the radio. So
thank you.
Shout out to everybody putting those together, and to you, good listener, check it out.
I appreciate that. That means a lot. Yeah. The injuries to Canadians and starting Canadians have been like nothing, and I haven't been, immersed in the CFL forever. Duke was drafted into the CFL the year I was born, which I love to remind him of that all the time.
Sure.
Won a Grey Cup in Saskatchewan, played with the Ottawa Rough Riders, and went through some lean years here in Ottawa, as everyone did in the late 80s, early 90s. But Duke has followed the CFL for a long time. We talk to Dave Naylor every countdown to kickoff every week. And what this team has dealt with when it comes to Canadians has been brutal. They started the season with 10 Canadians on the injured list, and 2 of them starters that are done for the year. Yeah. Nick Marner, their starting wide receiver, that's a Canadian.
Mitch who? No, sorry. No, it's not.
Not Mitch Marner.
No. Oh.
Nick Marner.
Oh.
There's a D in there.
Oh.
Triggered.
Yep.
We can get into that because I want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about that.
Okay.
But Nick Marner done for the year. He was their first round pick last year.
Yeah.
There was a steep learning curve. Now Keelan White has come in as a Canadian receiver and been pretty good. So that's not a devastating loss, but they're only.
Who was the offensive lineman who should have been on Friday Night SmackDown instead of Friday Night Football, who retired but no one thinks is actually Dante Bull, who stepped
Dante Bull retired
from 2 or 3 years ago, was the first round pick.
That's right.
That guy was a monster. I was excied to watch for a while, and it just never
worked out for him.
out.
But you talk about right tackle. Zach Pelios has been out all year.
Yeah.
He really solidified that position last season. He's been hurt. They went out and got Peter Godber to be their starting center. He had surgery, so he's on the 6th game. He's out. He's a Canadian starting center. Their backup center, Eric Starsala, was dealing with a concussion, so he's been out. He hasn't played.
Right.
So you're missing your first string center and your backup center. Mm-hmm. So Jacob Ruby, a veteran in the CFL who mostly plays tackle and guard, has been their starting center. He hadn't played center in about 10 years. So just to start, you're down 3 Canadian O-linemen, your 2 starters, and your first backup at a premium position at center, who everything runs through the center.
Of course.
So Jacob Ruby has had to step in and start at center, and then they've been starting an American at right tackle, which throws off the ratio. So they can't start William Stanback at running back because of the ratio.
Right.
Now, Daniel
that's your
Adeboboye,
big key. This is the guy you brought in.
Him
right?
and Geno Lewis were your 2 big acquisitions. Now, thank goodness they went out and got Daniel Adeboboye, Canadian running back, who went off in Calgary and has been terrific. But he's had to start for ratio reasons, and you started an American, Darte Lee, who was just released after he had an awful game against the Argos. Awful. He was a turnstile.
Yeah.
And so you add to the fact that you're without your QB1. Your QB2 got 1 start in Matthew Schultz and did not look great. Had 3 balls picked on tips at the line of scrimmage, which you see one of those, that's strange. 3 in 1 game.
Yeah.
And I don't think Dustin Crum has had an opportunity to be fairly evaluated because the weather in Calgary in their win was atrocious.
That was the perfect time to get him in there. A quarterback who, as everybody know, right? Use a guy who uses his legs in a game where you don't want to throw. Yeah. Get in there and let's see.
And he was not helped by his receivers.
No,
there
you're
were
right.
3 or 4 brutal drops.
You're right.
He should have had a touchdown pass to Geno Lewis, which he dropped
that
in the
game
end
was
zone.
played in a monsoon.
Yeah,
in
it
June
was, I think,
Calgary. It was
6
odd.
degrees, like 80 kilometer an hour winds and lots of rain.
And like 400 fans.
In June.
Yes.
They were wearing parkas in June.
Yeah.
But so injuries and the O-line have been a huge issue. And that loss to the Argos was a pretty close game.
Yeah.
If you take away 3 plays that you have a pick in the end zone.
Most losses, though, right? Like, I think a
Sure.
lot of fans are kind of like,
I agree.
I don't want to hear it anymore.
I'm not looking to make excuses,
Yeah.
but Ottawa actually outscored Toronto by 1 point on offense.
Right.
And there was a 20-point swing guaranteed. Or I guess you can never guarantee it.
Yeah.
But Dustin Crum threw a pick in the end zone where he overthrew Keelan White a little bit. Keelan White tipped it, and it was intercepted in the end zone, so you don't get good field position, and you get 0 points. Yeah. So if he takes a knee and you kick a field goal, you're +3. If he takes a knee and you miss a field goal and it's not returned, 0.
Yeah.
They had
our friend and your friend of TSN 1200, Don in Farhaven, was on Twitter like, can we just outscore their defense?
Yeah,
for now.
I saw that.
That's sort of how that game played out. Was like, if we could just outscore those guys, we'd be like, that's a rough night, and that's a game.
And you talk about the QB. That's the only one that was the QB's fault, because he threw overthrew the receiver and turned into the pick for 0 points either way.
Yeah,
Khalil Pimpleton trying to make an extra move, fumbles, and Derek Sluick runs it back for a touchdown.
Right.
And I think Pimpleton fumbled on about the 10-yard line.
Yeah.
And Dustin Crum was the only guy I saw chasing Derek Sluick that didn't give up on the play. And
that in itself is concerning. Like,
and I don't know if I should say that, but Dustin Crum was certainly chasing him down.
He was working hard.
I don't think anyone else quit on the play. I shouldn't have said that.
Well,
I don't mean that they quit on it.
I just look at Dustin Crum, and for me, effort has never been a question for that guy. He's willing to put himself in some positions. I'm just not sure he's ever going to be what you need him to be. And the fact that they went away from Matt Schultz so quickly, I don't know, man. And it looks like you've been you're following the team quite closely. It looks like we are going to see Brown. He's been taking first team reps this week, which they badly need. But at this point, even if they've been unlucky with injuries and a couple of plays, it sort of feels like they're in the mud again now. Whereas Montreal's going to be the class of the East. Everyone will chase, and maybe that was always going to be the case, but missing your starting QB for a couple of weeks or a few weeks to start the year, and it puts you behind the 8 ball now. And I don't know what the potential win-loss, projection would be for these guys.
I don't know how, and I hate to do this, and you never want, and some of the players have been saying it, and I know it drives Duke absolutely crazy, but you could argue Ottawa's last place in the CFL East because technically they are because of divisional record.
Sure.
But you look at their record, they're tied for second in the CFL East right now. They're 1-3.
Right.
Hamilton is 1-3.
Yeah.
Toronto is 1-3.
Yeah.
And
that's what made that Toronto game so big, right? Was
yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, and it's way too early. What do they always say in the CFL? Season doesn't start till after Labor Day.
Yeah.
And what you can't do is...
Last year, we had like 9 wins at Labor Day and didn't win again. I wish the season hadn't started if that's the rule.
Sure, but what you can't do is get so far behind everyone else.
Yeah.
And the Montreal Alouettes are out in front. They look like the class, although McLeod Bethel Thompson, because they were dealing with an injury to Davis Alexander, they lost. So nobody's undefeated. And the Argonauts have only beaten Ottawa in a game where Derek Sluick had over 200 yards in a missed field goal and a fumble return for 2 touchdowns. But
doesn't it feel like the East is already decided?
No.
Oh, see, not decided in the final set, but Montreal is just going to walk away again.
I felt
and
that
now
way.
The rest of it is just going to be, we'll see from here. Toronto, Hamilton, Montreal.
I agree with you.
Toronto, Hamilton, and Ottawa wrestling for the other spots. Yeah.
I agree with you if injuries don't happen in football.
Okay.
Injuries happen in football.
Yeah.
Ottawa's been decimated by injuries early. Toronto hasn't had their starting QB yet in Chad Kelly because he's got an ingrown toenail. Hamilton's defense remains they went out and got all these offensive weapons, didn't fix the defense, so we'll see what happens with them. But if Ottawa can get Drew Brown back, Zach Pelios, Peter Godber, Eric Starsala all on the field at practice this week. I don't think any of them are going to play. But if you can get back to having 4 Canadians on the O-line, and you have a center who is a center instead of a tackle or guard who's been having to take those reps, and credit to Jacob Ruby, who has been really, for the most part, solid. There have been a couple of missed assignments, and that's going to happen.
As you point out, he's doing his best in a
100%. 100%.
Guy's a warrior. Like, he'll do what the team asks him to do, but this isn't his spot. Like,
Big time.
Yeah.
So even if you get one of those centers back, if Eric Starcella is able to start, or Peter Godber, who it sounds like should be back after the 6 games because he ended up having surgery, so he has to miss the time for the surgery to heal.
Yeah.
But if you have your center, one of your 2 centers back, you can shift Jacob Ruby over to right tackle, where he filled in for injury last season and was pretty solid. And then you get Zach Pelios back at some point. This is going to be a team that should be able to protect their quarterback a lot more. I love their weapons at receiver. It's a tough blow that Braylon Addison's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks. And man, oh man, what a warrior.
Yeah.
Because he came back. It was funny. So to take you behind the scenes, when I work home games, we do the countdown to kickoff and halftime from the Subaru log cabin in the west end zone. And so usually I'll find a spot to watch the first half of the game, whether it's from our broadcast location or somewhere in the stands. And for the second half, I like to go up to the press box and watch from up high. I missed the Braylon Addison injury waiting for the stupid elevator at TD Place. And I don't need to get into how stupidly designed. There are 2 elevators. Only one of them goes up to the press box. But there's one button to call both of them.
Right.
So it's an
But
adventure.
if you want to run into Matty K or Brent Wallace or whatever, just hang out at the bottom of the elevator there.
Yeah, you'll find me. So I missed the Braylon Addison injury. And so guy up in the press box, Cody, pulled it up for me on his iPad. And I'm watching it, and they've got his arm immobilized on the field, and he took a hard hit, didn't know if it was his arm or his shoulder. I was saying, that looks to me, the way they're immobilizing him, maybe his shoulder. Cody was saying maybe his arm. We don't know. I'm like, well, that doesn't look good. Then there's a play. Reception, Braylon Addison for a first down. He went back into the game. Yeah. There was a third down play where he started jogging off the field, and they decided to keep the offense on. He kept playing. He finished the game, and now is out 2 to 4 weeks with a shoulder. Yeah. So, man,
but just a game.
That's a dude.
Like a warrior.
That's a dude.
That's a guy.
He's a football player.
A dog.
He's a dog. And so that's going to be a tough blow. But you still look at the talent they have at receiver with Drew Brown back and with a little bit better protection on the O-line.
Right.
They should be able to do some damage. And we saw what the ground game can do if given the opportunity in Calgary. And William Stanback and Daniel Adeboboye, that's one thing that I don't know how I'm feeling about the job Tommy Condell has been doing. And I know it's been a criticism of him for years in CFL circles that he tends to eschew the ground game.
Right.
And so I think with William Stanback and Daniel Adeboboye, you need to lean on it a little bit more.
Like, these are key pieces, right? Like,
and especially because then it opens up Geno Lewis and Khalil Pimpleton.
Yep.
And you look at these guys on offense. So I think I'm not worried yet. Okay. I'm really not.
Okay.
And the score was awful last week, but it was 2 plays. The blocked field goal that was returned for a touchdown by Derek Sluick, and the Khalil Pimpleton fumble in the red zone that was returned for a touchdown. And that's 14 points for Toronto, 0 for Ottawa. And you could argue Ottawa could have had 6 if you include the interception.
Sure.
I'm not going to give them credit for a blocked and missed field goal.
No.
You're not getting 3 points there. But that's a 20-point swing on 3 plays.
Yeah, well, and such is life a little bit in the world of football, right?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you lose the game.
Right.
But
well, so let me ask you before we move into a couple other things, because we got limited time with you here today, man. But I do want to ask you, is there anybody, good or bad, elsewhere across the league who has surprised you? Like, I don't think anybody's shocked Montreal is good again, right? Like, I don't think anybody is shocked that the rest of the East is going to be a bit of a battle here down the stretch. Is there anybody that you have, through a few weeks of the early CFL season, you've looked at and went, really thought those guys would be better? Or, I can't believe those guys are doing what they're doing. Like, is there anything that stands out to you elsewhere across the league?
I guess the obvious one for me is BC.
Yeah.
And again, you talk about injuries, and we saw Jeremiah Masoli in limited action with the Ottawa REDBLACKS over the years because of injury.
Yeah.
The turnovers have been a big issue, and they continue to be a big issue. I think he's got 6 interceptions in 2 starts, and
yeah, man,
Nathan Rourke obviously dealing with a similar injury to Drew Brown.
Yep.
I think they're calling Nathan Rourke's injury an oblique injury, while they're calling Drew Brown's a hip injury.
Sure.
Pretty similar.
It's just talk.
Pretty similar stuff.
Yeah.
And that is a big issue, obviously, for BC. But you look at expectations for the team and the reality, and you look at the CFL West. You've got Saskatchewan, who's undefeated. And the problem for Saskatchewan is they tend to play down to their opponent a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to like in Winnipeg as well. And I talk about not panicking in the East because a home playoff game is still extremely realistic for 3 teams in the CFL East. One of those teams is the Ottawa REDBLACKS.
Right.
I don't know how realistic home field is, and we're into week 5 of the CFL season in the West for BC. Now, obviously, a lot can happen. A lot can change. If you get Nathan Rourke back and he can stay healthy, and then maybe you get an injury elsewhere, and who knows?
Yep.
But Chris Streveler's won a game already for Winnipeg this season. Jake Mayer's won a game already this season for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And you look at the backup situation in those 2 cities, in Winnipeg and Regina, and it feels to me like their backup situation is probably better than anyone else in the league. And I think that's...
It is interesting, eh? Like, man, we all... I guess I can't say that in a general sense or speak for everybody, but I was bummed to see Nathan Rourke leave to do the NFL thing, and then he bounced around. It didn't really work. And when he's come back, it hasn't ever quite... He hasn't reestablished himself as that guy in the league. And I think that's still on the table, but
100%.
We haven't seen it yet, right? And that would change the dynamics of the West quite a bit if he, could get healthy and just sort of get his feet underneath him again and become the guy out there. But yeah, right now it's a bit of a, you've kind of got Saskatchewan doing what they're doing. Winnipeg is never, as far as I can tell, going to go away. Like they're just
it feels
always,
like they have to at some
point. You would think
losing
so,
coordinators and no problem. Zach Collaros will just rush for his 3rd rushing touchdown in 10 years.
Yeah.
The 3rd of his career. And man, he looked good on that play. He looked like Chris Streveler.
Right.
Making plays, dodging guys, taking contact. BC is the big disappointment. Calgary, obviously, is everyone picked them to be the worst team in the CFL coming into the year, and they've had so much turnover on defense, especially. But bringing in VA, VA does what VA does.
That's right,
and he can put up big games and put up lots of turnovers. But I think Calgary's a little bit ahead, and Edmonton is the Hamilton of the West. Although Hamilton has a win, so. The Elks are
I don't think anybody wants to be called the Hamilton of anything.
No,
like
probably.
It's not a glowing comparison.
Probably not. And that was maybe by design a little bit.
Elbow thrown. Yeah.
Elbows up.
We got to wrap here soon, but I do want to ask you, on the heels of NHL free agency, I guess there's still guys out there, but it's mostly
Nick
done.
Ehlers.
I can't believe we're still like... And good for you, right? Like, when you're the only gun left out there, sit back, put your feet up, wait for somebody to get desperate and throw an extra $1 million on the table or whatever. But it's July 3rd as we sit here and record. The big stuff, as much as there was big stuff, is done. I'm sort of, as we wind down, we could talk about Marner being out. We could talk about...
How do you feel? How do you feel about Mitch Marner? Yeah, people.
As I lay back on the couch and I got to be honest, indifferent. He's a star, and they will miss him. There is no question about that. But he, for 2 years, has looked miserable, right? Like, one of the things about Mitch was the shots of him singing along to songs on the bench while in commercial break, he just hasn't been happy for a while. And you can tell there was snarky answers to the media when they weren't called for. Like, Mark Masters just asking him, coming off the high ankle sprain a year or so ago, he's like, well, you guys will make up your own story. I'm like, why'd you do that? Like, there was no reason for that. He just wasn't happy anymore. So be it.
And I guess the big thing with Mitch Marner is how the reports that there was a Mikko Rantanen trade that was kiboshed by the player. And it brings me back to the Muskoka 5, which, yes, I am very, very pleased to bring up with you. And I guess...
I love the Kawarthas, Bob Cage and everybody.
I guess the Leafs deserve some credit for getting something in return for him because it felt and looked like
walking
just
either way.
Horrific asset management.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And that is what it is in the NHL, but you lost a 100-point player for a
third line
bottom six.
Yes. Right-handed center. We don't have one of those. Does that make it worth more?
Well,
give us our Nick Waugh.
It's better than nothing.
It is better than
losing
nothing
him for nothing.
Absolutely.
And so that has to be weirdly a win for the Leafs, but
because I've known that guy was gone for months. I think most Leaf fans have. Like, he's just,
and I think most Leafs fans wanted him gone.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that on November 15th when our power play's not clicking and whatever else, how much you wanted him gone. But I don't think you're wrong. Like, there was a lot of people who were just, all right, like, any change is good change. Now,
is it though?
Well,
is it though?
But it felt in the moment
100%.
Like some sort of change has to happen. Should it be your great two-way PK Selke candidate, 100-point PP quarterback? Even that part of it is Morgan Riley back on the point now, and our power play goes back to being, I guess, right? Like, because Mitch, we had the 5 forward.
Don't worry, Johnny Tavares is getting younger. He's discovered the fountain of youth.
You will not get me to say a bad word about JT at $4.3 million. Love you, Johnny! I'm an old school Oshawa Generals guy, too. So, yeah. I don't know, man. The Sens, I think the Leafs and the Sens were smart to sort of keep the powder dry a little bit in that this wasn't a very good free agent class. I think Lars Eller is a reasonable acquisition, right? For the Sens, I think.
I love what the Sens did.
Yeah. Claude Giroux, bring him back, but don't blow your brains out on guys who aren't going to help you.
And it's quiet. It's not sexy.
Right.
But I think it's smart. And we'll see how it plays out. Yeah. I love the number they got Claude Giroux at. I was
too. I'm so weird on Jonathan Taves. There's another one out there. We're getting all these bonuses for games played. I'm like, that's just showing up to work. Like, bonuses should be for this many points or this many. Yay, Claude Giroux played 30 points or played 30 games. Yeah. That's just salary. Like,
I tend to agree with you, but my colleague Steve Lloyd made a real good point.
Lloydie's never made a good point.
If you want team success to be the barometer, you don't want a player chasing stats to make more money. And you know what? I can't argue with that. And you look at the regular season success, the playoff success, and those bonuses that incentivizes a player to contribute to the team. And if Claude Giroux's bonuses are tied to points and he's playing less minutes on the third or fourth line, you're going to get a player who's disgruntled if he's in the lineup but playing fewer minutes, potentially, because you're taking money from him and his family. Whereas if he's in the lineup, it's a lot easier to buy in as a third, fourth line guy when you've been one of the best players in the league for the vast majority of your career.
To play. Like, it's just paid to show up and do that. I have no motivation to go through the wall for I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way.
I get it.
That's all.
I get it.
Because we've seen it in a few different places now, right? Taves. And there is another one. It's escaping me right now. That's bugging me. That just got one of these.
I feel like Corey Perry in LA.
Right.
Is probably bonus heavy.
Yeah. And like, to me, I don't know. Just showing up and playing 82 games. That's just salary. That's your job. Anyway.
You're not wrong.
Well, then we're going to stop right there. That's going to be the end of this edition of the show.
You're just no. I almost went Big Lebowski.
Yeah. We'll wrap it up here, man. You've been through hell just to get here today, man. Just to get here today outside.
Hell's a loose term. It's fine.
It's
fine.
We're going to ask our man to go back out here and navigate downtown Fallujah, basically, to get out of the parking lot. And then he's off to Europe. And that's where he loses my sympathy. He's about to have an awesome trip. Several countries and a half over a couple of weeks. And then we're going to do this again right around just after the August long weekend. After you have acclimated to the time zone. We'll talk some music. We'll talk about the concert that you went to.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait.
A little envious about that as we've...
You should be. You really should be.
I wasn't really invited. You didn't grab an extra ticket.
We could only buy 4.
Yeah.
And we got to take the 2 people who are putting us up in downtown London for 4 nights.
One of them could have stepped aside for me, I think.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
That's where we will wrap this one up. Matt Conasvita, the pre- and post-game show on the Ottawa REDBLACKS, and of course, almost every afternoon on the drive, except for the next couple of weeks where he's going to be unavailable.
Just traveling. Just,
checking in by phone
London,
with the guys.
Manchester, Edinburgh, Helsinki, Copenhagen.
Seems
It'll be all right. It'll be all right.
All right. And we will hear all about it when he gets back. Matty K, man, I know it's been a tough week. I know it's been a busy week. I appreciate you making the time, man.
Oh, anytime. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We will wrap it up here. Thank you so much for listening. We're on social media at Tall Can Audio, and subscribe wherever you're hearing us right now. We will link to Matty K's socials in the show notes. They might be interesting over the next couple of weeks. We'll see. Guy might just leave his phone at home.
I don't post a lot.
Yeah, okay.
But maybe I'll try. Vacation's usually where I post.
You're not helping.
Yeah, usually vacation's where I post.
Of course, Matt.
I gotta make you feel bad.
Matt. Other Matt. That's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
The hell is that?
Number one bullshit. Oh, number one bullshit.
Why are you so pissy?